Okay, here we go. Hi there. My name is Casey Hutchinson. I'm president of Empire Rubber and Supply Company. And this is my podcast, Belt Friends, where I talk to people who I hold in high regard and people as friends in this industry to maybe learn a little bit more about them, certainly along the way for myself, but also share their stories with others because they've got friends in the industry too. And the more we get together, this is going to work. So today, my guest is Kathryn Dunn, CFO of Souhegan Wood Products, Inc. And I get to call her Katie because she is a friend of mine. Welcome, Katie.
Thank you. This is exciting.
Yeah, this is my first go. So we're going to work out the kinks together. And what better belt friend to have than you today?
We can talk belt and be very, very casual and also get lots of information too. So it's good. All good.
Well, yeah. Katie, tell us about you. Tell us about the Dunn family and tell us how you got into the family business and arrived at being my belt friend.
I never thought I would be in the National Industrial Belting Association of NIBA. But I've been going since I was a little girl. I used to go to all the parties at NIBA, and it was so fun. So I think my dad was slowly integrating me into it, whether I knew it or not. I live in a very small town in New Hampshire. I think there's like 3,000 people in our town. I think we're one of the last manufacturing businesses in Wilton. There's some more obviously in other towns, but we're in this old mill building along the river next to a railroad. My great grandfather started the business in 1950. And he started making compressed boxes, ammo boxes for the war out of sawdust.
Oh, wow.
Which is like, it's totally weird. So he actually was one of the inventors of particle board, which is basically what our product is, but round, right? So particle is flat, right? So that's how my grandfather started the business, and then it transformed into belt cores or whatever. My father started 50 years ago or so. It skipped a generation. So it went from his grandfather. Yeah.
Started, his grandfather didn't go.
Right. So Randy jumped in because he got a degree in Shakespeare from Ohio University. So what do you do with that? And you go and start take over the family business. And lo and behold, I have a degree in English. So we do not have business degrees, and which I think is quite funny about Randy and I. But I started at Souhegan 17 years ago, and I started with the bookkeeping, and I was handwriting it by pencil.
Oh my!
And like no a big
system or anything like that. No.
If my dad could still have fax machines, he would. Fax machines and pencil and paper. He'd be so happy. Emails are like, we've had to slowly integrate him. Like, it's okay. And he doesn't trust anything on the internet. So there's a lot of, talk about banter. It's my day. Every day is a little bit of that. Like, I don't trust anything on the internet. I'm like, okay, Dad, it's okay. But anyway, so I got in by writing accounting to make sure the year end matched with what the sales were. That's how I started there, and like making sure my numbers were perfect. My dad would check over my numbers, how I wrote them.
Oh, wow.
So my number, it was one of these and then I ended up being at home. I went away, went to college, and came back, and didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life, and had a medical episode that kept me close to home, and I needed a job, and here I am.
Yeah.
17 years later. So it's I wouldn't and honestly I wouldn't change anything of how I ended up here. I feel so lucky to be in the role that I am. The flexibility is unbelievable to own your own business, as you well know.
Oh yeah. No, the autonomy, flexibility. I mean, the phone's always attached to us, and the emails. I mean, we're not hard to find, but
no. It's a catch-22. I always tell people that.
It is. Our time doesn't always weigh on the scale with everyone equally.
yeah, because everyone's like, "Oh, are you working today?" I'm like, I, I'm always working. I'm always like checking, making sure, we run 24 hours a day. So we are like, I could have issues at like Tuesday night, a transformer blew on the pole. Our fault.
Oh
No
my.
electricity at the plant for 10 hours in the middle of the night from 9 till 2 a.m. I mean,
Oh,
this, yeah, it was a big deal. And luckily we had a spare transformer. Randy, my father, is all about spare parts. And but it was one of those things. It's like I was calling PSNA, public service, whose services gives us electricity here in New Hampshire, and it, you're never off, but
yeah.
maybe not on all the time.
I
It's
get it.
weird. Yeah, family businesses that way, as you know. So
So rewind with the product that you guys do. I know you in the belt industry, certainly for belt cores. I can't cut a
yes,
belt without attaching it to something. But you
yeah,
guys, you guys are, we learned how essential we were during the pandemic, did we not?
it
But
was interesting. Yeah.
oh yeah, but that's I tried studying your website going into this. I want to make sure that I knew a bit more. But you're going to tell me a bit more. You're not just catering to the belt industry. I mean, there's more for your product line.
Yeah, so we used to make actually casket tops, but we actually don't do that anymore. But we made the round top, and it'd be two pieces. And so for I don't know, 50 years we made those, and we actually just discontinued those 4 years ago, to the sadness of four customers that we had left.
Mm,
Then, so the other larger product that we make that took over that space in our building, and we make core plugs for the paper industry. So we make these little round plugs with a center hole, that go in the end of paper rolls, after they come off of a paper machine. So
okay,
we
I can visualize
service.
that. I have customers who do that work.
Yeah, I'm sure you do, because the Pacific Northwest has a ton of paper mills. You guys got a lot of trees. So
Mhm.
paper is made out there. So we sell to like large and small paper mills across the US. And now even like I just shipped four pallets to Kuwait, which is
Oh
like
my.
crazy, and Colombia and Ecuador and India. So it's a cool little it's we have a lot of competitors in that market, but we've definitely carved out our own little niche there. So that's actually where I do a lot of my sales work, I would say. I don't sell extruder shells because most of the customers were already established when I arrived at Souhegan or got more involved. So I really kind of etched my position there and grew the core plug business because my dad couldn't sell anything to anyone. It's not his specialty. So yeah, so core plugs is our other part of our business, and it's a good to have a little diversification within the kind of niche industry we're in anyways, which is
Yeah.
recycled wood.
You can compress it. I'm sure you're gonna find someday what you can compress it into for the next adventure too, so
I know, right? My dad's always like, because he leaves it on the website, I always giggle. I'm like, Dad, I think we should probably take off custom products. He's like, absolutely not. We can always make something. I'm like, you're gonna make something that people are gonna want, and then we can't have the manpower to make it. But
Yeah.
as a business owner, if you got to be always inventing. You got to always be moving. There's always got to be something next to entice the buyer. So
Agreed.
yeah.
So
So
you get to wear multiple hats. I mean, you started by running the numbers, and now you're kind of hand at the wheel over the ship, and you get to put the sales hat on.
yeah,
Does it
I actually love the sales part because I like talking, as you can tell. So like
we
for
both
me,
love
like
sales.
I'm good at the person to person. I feel as though I'm good at that. Like I remember the first time I walked into a paper mill and I was so scared. And I remember just feeling like I can't do this. Like, what am I gonna say? And I remember the fear. And I called my dad and I was all like freaked out. And he's like, "You have nothing to lose and everything to gain." And I remember feeling that, and I was like, "Okay." And I walked in and like was trying to sell core plugs to I think Georgia Pacific, which is like a huge business,
Yeah.
just one mill, and it didn't go through. The first one's always, but I remember that after that I was like, "Oh." I can do this. I'm good at this. And so I spent almost 10 years like traveling across the United States selling core plugs.
Oh, wow.
And so my sales hat was on for a long time. In a good way. We grew the business immensely over that time. And it gave me a good perspective of where our product was and what it did and the people, and it was a good journey. I loved it, and now we're oversold and sold out through 2 months, so I don't get to go
Huh.
do that as much as yeah, I miss it. I also have kids too, so that I don't get to go as much.
No, no, you don't.
Yeah, so
That's cool. You're kind of responsible for the backlog. You've
I
done your
know.
part, your
It's
own
the
king
chick
and
my
country.
yeah, as my father said, it's the chicken before the egg before the chicken, right? Like, wait, I was selling them before we were actually making the volume at which I was selling. And then I'd get the volume, and then we build another plug machine, and then I'd get the volume, and then we build another plug machine.
Oh,
And
cool.
now, which is really cool, and we're building a number 7, which will be end of this year. And when I started, there was 3 there, so we built 4 more plug machines in my short period there, basically 1 every 2 years, and it's this total.
You're responsible for more machines coming in to turn out more work to do more business. That's awesome. That's so awesome because that's
Yeah. And you know what I find really interesting? Like, that's cool, right? I'm growing the business, but I think it's what was really interesting about the transition of my father and the trust. Like, he trusted me to just, and I trusted him to then be like, okay, just make these machines, right? Like, and for him to just like for me to just go out there, and he gave me full reign to just sell whatever. And like, I found that it gave me such it gave me a lot of like confidence and power that I probably didn't have 10 years ago, right? I was only what, 32. Like, like I don't I have an English degree. Like, I don't have marketing, I don't have business, but like, he was so trusting of me and what I could or couldn't do. And I think for me, it was like it ultimately fell on my shoulders, irregardless, right? If I didn't sell the plugs, that falls on me. So it's an interesting. He never said it to me. He never put that kind of pressure on me. But I remember feeling that pressure, but also feeling like the ultimate freedom because I'm my best. I'm the one who has to do it, and by giving me those reins, it was just like I had nothing to lose and like everything to gain. He was he's very secretly smart in this way, and I won't be able to thank him enough for that kind of ability to grow myself in this business. Like going to NIBA and seeing everyone. Like, it's like I said, I never thought I would be here, and here I am, and loving it, which is even
uh,
funnier.
I love it for you. I knew as we would share, we'd relate on so many parallels. I can relate
Yeah.
so much to that that letting out that rope and of trust, and that's how my dad. I say duped, and that's not fair, but to
No,
arrive,
it is
you know,
duping.
it is duping. Our family does it to us
That's
because they have the
exactly.
conversation more than once, and then they circle back to it again. And you sure?
Yeah,
But I
I
sat down
know.
with that couch, the one conversation with dad of, I need somebody I can trust is what he said to me,
Yeah,
and to, that hits you in the feels like, gosh, I want to be that to him. How can I deny that?
I know. I know that, but like, he didn't have. I'm sure your dad, his exit plan was you, right? Like, how is he going to walk away
Yeah.
otherwise?
Well, yeah. Otherwise, do you hire Pete and hope he's going to be the one that's going to see you through and you get to go sit on the couch and trust in that? You're missing some ties, I guess.
Yeah, and I also think like when it comes to family business, multi-generational family businesses, small, mom and pop, as you want to say, that the ultimate goal would be to pass it on to a family member. And if you're able to pass it on like that, it's the ultimate um, ability for your father to pass on his legacy and his hard work. That's how I look at the Souhegan. I'm like, this was my dad's life,
Yeah.
other than
Yeah.
us, right? And how can I show the ultimate respect to him is like carrying on that torch. Whether I burn the place down, who knows? But at least I can like, like at least we start somewhere, where it's like it's his life work.
Oh yeah.
It's his
And
life work.
nepotism's a heck of an experiment too,
Oh
because
yeah, it's great.
we've watched well, we've watched, and we're judgy, I'm sure, because we come from it, but you watch somebody come along and going, gosh, they're really not towing the line like they should. That I feel so bad for them because they
Yeah.
were a statue in this industry, and now so and so's not doing, or whatever industry it might be. I don't want people watching this rattle their brains. Who's he talking about? But
Yeah,
you
like
know,
who's he? But no, it's
but
true. You gotta want to take over a family business. You can't just be like, "Oh, this would be fun." It's like, no, no, no. You gotta, because it just doesn't come with all the perks of being like, "I'm home right now. Make sure my kids are taken care of." Like, but I also like it's a heavy load to make sure my employees have enough, hours worked, make sure there's enough business, the electricity's on, there's resin in the tank, it's all the things. All the
yeah,
things.
yeah, it's bigger than us. That's for certain, and that's the part that takes on. And not to say that we have a perfect program that we're running for being the heir apparents either, but we're surely working with the best tools they gave us that kept it
Mhm.
afloat, certainly, and
Yeah.
we probably hear a little bit of them coming out of us when we do the certain things we do too. Crap, that's a Randyism. Crap, that's an
Oh
Edism.
yeah. Oh
I'm
yeah.
sure it's
I definitely
resonating.
I definitely find myself being way more conservative um in many ways that I'm like a raging New England woman liberal, right? Like,
Yeah,
and I find myself fiscally becoming more conservative because I see how the system is it gets abused by people that just like can abuse the system, and then I'm like, that's all my hard money, like getting. And
well, and
my dad
not
always
just
said that I would. What?
it's not just your money. You're looking out for a bunch of people's monies too.
Oh, it's and I used to tease my dad and be like, "Dad, come on," and like, this money is good for the community. And now I'm like, oh my god, I'm turning into my father that way. But that's what happens when you are in a business where like you feel like you're getting taxed too much and the money's not going to the right places and yada 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 yada. That's like a life lesson that I definitely. Another thing I think Randy had circumnavigated and kind of was tapping me on the shoulders about it a lot, and I was always like, no. Now I'm like, oh god, what's happening to me?
It sneaks right up on us.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So you love the
So
sales hat, and now you're wearing all the hats back at the family business, managing people. I was always told that you'll love doing sales, but managing people is a difficult thing. Because I heard this comment from Adam Carolla. He said, "Don't do your best, do my best," and you can't force that on people by any means.
you can't
So
make them care.
no, that's a difficult thing. You try to be everything to show them what to care for, right?
You just can't make them love it as much as you're gonna love it, and so you have to just learn to deal with it, their lack of performance because they'll never be at your standards because you're an owner operator, right? Um,
Yeah.
I
The
I have
investment's
a
done. 5 o'clock, they're done, or whatever that time is.
oh, punch out.
Yep.
They're
Not
gone.
another thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and which is okay, like, you have to remember that too, because they have lives and they have families, and, like, I think that's a big part of the HR, at least at our company, is, like, my dad has always said, and I've definitely pushed it even harder, is, like, this is a family-owned business, and we take care of our families. Because if and that's one thing with HR, is, like, if my someone calls, "Hey, my kid's sick, I gotta stay," I'm like, "Okay." I don't ever question it. If it becomes repetitive enough, then maybe, but like the first couple years people are here, I want to make sure that they want to be established here. They want to live here. They want to take care of their kids here. And you have to give them those freedoms to go take care of their kids. Like I am a parent now and I know this. Like, and so we've really tried to push that. And I think that's why a lot of our employees stay a very long time is because we're very flexible with, tardiness or can't make it in today or whatever.
Yeah.
Which comes as comes both sides, but it's managing people is, as you were saying, is luckily I don't have to do too much of that. I only get involved when stuff gets to like the state level,
Yeah.
luckily enough, which is very rare, knock on wood.
Yeah.
for us. Jesse Martin, who works in the back, who's our plant manager for the last 25 years,
Mm.
he does all the HR and management of people, and he sometimes comes up to the front office. And I've known him personally since he was 7. He was my little brother's best friend. Talk about small family business, and he's
Oh, that's so
I don't
cool.
know how we'd be able to run without him, but he has to do a lot of the HR, people management, and he comes up to the office sometimes and just like offloads because he's like this person, this, and I just listen and absorb. And then he's like, oh, I feel better. Okay, I can go do this again. Like
Yeah.
it's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard.
No, I try to spread that out too to others to handle before
Yeah,
it climbs up the rung of, my HR person and then myself. And
yeah,
I get all that. It's but that's a great pitch that you have. I one thing I cherish about our family businesses is it's not so big that the lines are black and white. You can gray those lines because
oh
somebody's been towing the line for you for so long, and
yeah,
you can look out for them. You look out for their family. You watch people grow. That it's like, yes, you would have gotten a job anywhere, but I get to watch you evolve in life working here, and
yeah.
that's rewarding to me too.
I know, and I think, um, and not I always bring up Randy because he's still so involved in the business, but he always says I have to wake up every day and look myself in the mirror and be like, am I providing a livelihood and a good life for people that come in? Because a lot and that work for us, because a lot of people that start working for us don't even have high school degrees on average, not even a
Mm,
GE. So it's like they come in with all sorts of stuff, and we're like, okay, how can we mold this person and how can we keep them here? Because we especially the ones that stay, we're like, this is going to be a valuable candidate for this job long term. And with that, you have to have a ton of patience because there's going to be blips, right? There's going to be like, I hurt my finger or like whatever. And they learn about workers' comp and they're like, oh, wait a minute. And then they will learn about like buying a house or paying for rent or getting a car. And you grow with this person. I've seen it now for the last 20 years. Like we have some they show up as kids.
yeah.
And now they're like, a couple of them got married. They have a couple kids now. They have, rental properties and in their little town. But they stay. And that's all you can ask for is like giving them a living and working wage, not just a living wage, not just a working wage. They have to have a living wage. They got to be able to live too. They got to be able to have their cars and their motorcycles and camp and do all the things that they want to do, and I want to be able to provide that. I just don't want it to be a bare minimum job where they don't get out of the cycle of maybe where they came from. I want them to step out of that cycle, like their kids, graduate high school and maybe get a vocational degree or whatever it is. Like I love that. That's
Yeah.
yeah. Selling bed course
That's-
is great, but it's good to also then be like, okay, we've made a better community where we live. I don't know. And I'm not just saying that. Like that's how we actually think at Souhegan, and maybe that's why we're maybe not as profitable as we should be, but we're you know you know
That's just fine. It's
yeah,
family, and that's not just the Dunn
yeah,
family. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. You gotta small businesses, like you're gonna know way more than you want to know about your employees, but that's how you establish like a strong team. I think I at least that's how we've always kind of functioned here. But I
Yeah.
like the idea that you're saying about the gray areas. Like I feel like, and you work probably with some larger companies. Like I feel like everyone's in silos, and it's
Yeah.
like we have so much gray area in our company. Like we probably say things we shouldn't, but like we get things done because we're not.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah,
The gray area that our business allows, it's like not all customers that we deal with are created equal either. So, to have the flexibility to look out for people in different veins. I've even had some of my own staff, go leaps and bounds for their fellow employees too when they're down and out, and what can they do
oh
to
yeah,
help them, sort of thing.
oh
It's
yeah,
it's been tremendously rewarding.
oh yeah. It's you walk away, you're like every day, or like, and then you're like, oh wow, I made a lot of money, and then it's like, okay, well, how else did I? What else did I do? And I think of like this kid Billy, who's been an employee for us, and the first 2 weeks he worked for us, or 3 weeks he worked for us, he was cutting wood out in the forest and like cut his leg and had to go to the hospital. but he couldn't be on our health insurance yet. So we like helped pay his medical bills, and he's still working for us. This is like 10 years ago. And he crashed his car and we helped him buy a new car. It's like, but I like love this kid. He came from nothing, like nothing. And he now has a car and has 2 kids and is married and he's taken on a larger role at Souhegan, which has given Jesse, our plant manager, freedom to leave earlier during the day at like 6 o'clock. Jesse was staying till 8 o'clock, which was a long day for him. So it's like, we've seen him grow and he's smart and like no one ever gave him that chance. And he knows now not just how to run one position, he can now fix a lot of things around the plant. It's just, I love Billy. He's a kid that I'm happy he's here, and I hope he stays for a long time because he's trying to make better. And I don't know. And we have a lot of them like that. They come into us broken and patch them back up.
Well, it's cyclical. It's kind of in symbiance with one another. I mean, he's grabbing a hold of what you guys have to offer and taking. He doesn't want to let you down either. So that's really cool.
Yeah, like a 401k. Like,
I
was like, Billy, if you start this at 20, I was like, this will change the way you see the rest of your life. Like, he came to me time, he's like, well, I'm never going to be able to buy a house. And I was like, why do you think that? Like, yes, we want to make sure that you can do that, Billy. It's changing the way they think, not just act, right?
Oh yeah.
It's a bit of both. Like he didn't have health insurance. We got him on health insurance. Now he goes to the doctor. It's just like, it's all these things that I don't know if you experience those kind of things with your employees, but it's a lot of understanding their situation and not pressuring them to do things that you think they should do, but also just like leading them, teaching them a little bit. Like, I'm not going to fish for you, but I'll teach you how to fish a couple times, and then I'm like, I'm done.
No, absolutely. It's funny when you sell what we have to offer to the next person. Somebody's applying for the job or something, they don't perceive the medical as a benefit yet. It doesn't. They're evaluating money in their pocket, and until they break that arm, and now what do I do? It doesn't resonate within them. That's like, oh, that's helping me out tremendously.
Oh wow, that's a huge benefit. And like I've had the exact same experience, Casey. Like, they're like, I'm young, I don't need health insurance. Like, why would I need health insurance? I'm like, and I did the same thing. I was the same way. Like, don't like you're invincible from 18 to, well, some of us never grow out of that, but most of us are invincible from 18 to 30, right? We're like, we're in our 20s, we don't hurt. And now when you turn 30, everything breaks. Like, so I think we just tell people, we're like, this is a good and that's another thing about affordability is like, one other reason why we're probably not as profitable as we should be, we pay for 70% of the premium and then 80% of the deductible.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, because huge, but that's because they will not use the health insurance because of the fear of the deductible. Not to get like the nitty gritty of this, but like,
no, but that's huge, and you still can't sell it to some of them.
No, I've had people get on and then drop it, and they're like, "Can I get back on?" I'm like, "No, this is not something you just get on and off." Like, so a lot of learning curves there, but I want to make it affordable because taking care of yourself it's a huge part of making sure that you're happy and healthy. And yeah, I used to be so I don't know, just like bright-eyed and optimistic about all of it, and then like after a few experiences, I'm like, okay, I have to be more real about how people think about these things. And I don't know, maybe I like HR too, only when it's like things I really want to deal with, but when people are trying to do things that are, not legal, and that's the stuff I'm like, oh God,
Yeah, when you're trying to, you want to deal with the good in people,
Yeah, but it's not always possible. You have to remember that, and it's not always possible. And the lesson learned, it's good though, because it's good to learn those lessons too, that not everyone that you want to be good is going to be good, and that's okay. That's okay too. So I don't know. HR is a fun hat. This is why they have whole professionals just doing these all day long.
Yeah. Yeah, at least you don't
Yeah.
have to fit that one too tight all the time. So
No.
what's future look like for you and your business?
God.
You're just
Future.
trying to deal with today.
I know. It's so true.
It is.
I think about future. I think I do in years. I'm like, okay, by the end of the year, we're gonna have another plug machine. Um, I think for Souhegan, one of the things that's really interesting right now for us is the growth of our cores with the like enhanced cores, as we call them, but they have the staves around them, the solid
Yeah.
lumber, and that's taking off in this way that we're all like, God, do we have enough employees to make this? Like, so that's an interesting growth that's kind of cool about Souhegan, which my father's excited about because he loves like new he's like, I want to be a core supplier for everyone, no matter their core needs. Because like there's metal cores out there for like, big belting that we
Oh, yeah.
can't compete with really. But these stave cores kind of can compete. So we're getting it's kind of fun and interesting. Trying to think what else. I think um I mean there's so many projects. We did a huge project last year. We put a new resin tank in. That was a very big undertaking. Joe, my husband, got involved in that too.
Yeah,
Talk
Joe.
about family business. Yeah,
Yeah.
he comes in when I'm like, help me. And luckily
Mhm.
I have someone that's very capable to do that kind of stuff, which is great. Um, so I don't know.
Well, I know you're in the
Yeah,
trenches like I am and just grabbing an oar and just rowing, and that
that's what
and
it feels like. I don't. I love I think bigger businesses are like, okay, by fiscal year 2025, and I just don't. Maybe I should think like that, but I don't. And like, I don't know. It's one of I totally live in the moment at Sweet, and I'm like, okay, what are we gonna do today? Like,
yeah. No, I ask you the question, it's not fair because I couldn't really answer that question beyond a year myself. I mean, it's like it feels like
yeah, it's
by this
hard.
quarter this, by this quarter it's all measurable at that point. I couldn't tell you what I'm doing 2 years from now, but
Yeah,
I know down in the trenches with that or just rowing.
yeah, and like keeping the company stable, like fiscally, with the undulations of the election, and then like how are they going to tax us, and like I think that I definitely am like trying to think long term because my dad is so good about thinking long term, and I don't critically think as well as he that does that way, and like I've been thinking about that. I'm like I need to think more critically. It's like New Year's resolution, right?
We'll
And
sit down
like
for Randy's class if he'll give it.
a lot of it. See, this is the thing though with my father. Love him. He's usually his forward thinking or thinking in the future is all doom and gloom. So I'm always like, Dad. That's maybe why I don't think that way because he's always like, it's all gonna burn. I'm like, okay,
Oh
easy, Dad.
gosh. I get that some of our worst traits get worse as they get older too, you
I
know?
know. Yeah, so the future looks bright. Whatever it is, I think we're in a very lucky position, and I don't know. I'm excited. I think at one point we'll say, okay, we've made enough plug machines. We do talk about that a lot, actually. It's like, how many is going to be enough? Like,
Yeah,
at some point, because I think this is what talking about the gray area and HR and how we, as you and I, in small businesses, can wear a lot of hats. The bigger, like, how big do you want to get? Because the bigger you get, there things get more complicated. More employees, more. Oh my God! I mean, the list goes on and on. More taxable income. More resin. It's just things get different, and like we have to report to the DES state of New Hampshire. Like we have limitations about how much we can do. Like it's complicated, and it's like, well, how big do we want to get? It's a talk about the future. I guess that's what we talk about a lot about the future. Is like, well, how big is Sweet, and what can I handle? What can I
yeah.
keep the
Let's
reins
evolve,
on?
not so
You know,
quickly, or not so much. Keep it right here, slow evolve. Let's,
I
meter
yes,
this.
meter always. That's one thing about Randy. We are very slow growing. Plus, we have very low debt, and it gives us the ability to move quickly, which I think is amazing. That my dad was able to rebuild the business from the ground, and an embezzlement, and now has something that's quite successful. And so that's a big lesson is slow growth. Keep your bank loans very low and save money. And
Yeah.
it's
working.
It seems to be working. I'll probably screw it up, but
pressure's off. It was supposed to fall down to the second generation. Pressure's off for us. So.
Well, the thing is, so we went to a family business. I don't know if you did this with your father, but Randy and I had a lot of, in the first 10 years, like head to head, we were bashing heads. He was helicoptering me. I didn't want to listen to anything he was saying because he knew nothing. And we went to a small family business conference. It was a Saturday. And it was the best thing that we ever did because it told him to like give me space, but also, which he was pretty good at, but it really, we use this word a lot. We did for many years, called your helicoptering. Because he would come in and just like micromanage what I was doing. And I remember that this conference, they used that word, and it was so interesting to learn that small family businesses are very hard to keep going because of all the new family members, marriages, children, from different demographics and whatever. It's really hard to keep a family business growing. So you really have to, have good fences with your family. You have to have good fences, which is hard to talk about, right? Like, but it's something that I think we're lucky enough to be in a fifth generational company. It's very rare because a lot of the first generation works hard, the second generation spends it, and the third generation crashes it. That's like a standard family business model. So to like be beyond that we're very lucky. But that's Randy being fiscally conservative, I think, has played a huge part in that. So, but
that's so cool.
I don't know if you ever did that with your dad. Maybe you didn't need that, but we needed that.
No, I guess I'm fortunate. I would have gratefully taken from that. I mean, it's funny you speak of helicoptering. I had only heard that for parents dealing with younger children, but not as they get older. And I can speak highly to that, just like you would in the family business. And as I liken it to when I would borrow my father's boat to go out on the river. And it was always, and you bring it back and it's getting the check over to make sure you didn't ding it or something because it's his baby and he loves it, and what do you do with my boat, And
where's all the things?
So that I take that to the business. Like, what are you doing with my business, And he at least let go of the helicoptering on his own, which was very surprising, and let more leash out to go. He's going to learn from some mistakes, and I got to let him. And not that I was making complete and total mistakes, but I had to go learn some things for myself that he couldn't teach me. And, or I wouldn't have taken the lesson as well, maybe just coming from him.
Of course not. Of course not. I think, and this isn't something I was talking to, I was talking to you, but I think, Randy and I like bashed heads a little bit with that, exactly what you're describing. And he's like, I won't let you make a fatal like fiscal mistake. So we had a rule: anything over $20,000, I had to talk to him about. I was like,
get a cap,
whatever it was, which is good. It was good, and honestly, I'm glad. Even now, and I don't anything over 10,000. I talk to Randy about because I'm just like, I don't know if I want all those reins yet. Anyway, so like we still talk a lot about that. But I think being a daughter to a father transition, at least for us, was difficult, but not that hard. And I've thought, like in your case, it was a father to son. And I think those relationships are so much different than a father to a daughter. And I thought about you because I was talking to someone, maybe I don't remember who I was talking to about it, but it was like, there can be more tension between a son and a father than a daughter and a father, right? Because like I'm his daughter, I'm like, he just has made things easier for me in a sense, where I think fathers could be harder on sons than they can on the daughters.
Yeah.
I don't know if that in your case,
kind of thing.
Yeah, totally. Like be tough, like, and we had a pretty easy transition because of that. But I think a lot of times if it's going from father to son, that can be hard. It can, if you don't have a good baseline, it can be it doesn't work. I don't know.
I think that circles back to where we began this in our journeys with them, trust, because if it didn't come organically or right away, so what's this other kid of mine doing? Like
Yeah.
it transitions quickly, like to start looking under the hood somewhere else, or maybe this isn't my escape plan, and I think we
Yeah.
gave him enough to start letting more of that leach out.
I think too, like the organically, that comment exactly is like a huge part of it. Is it has to be organic. It can't be forced. And
Yeah.
I think I ended up here. Never thought I would be. I started doing this, started doing that. He gave me the reins to sell stuff, and like now he just shows up to work for an hour a day. So here we are.
Our hour a day is coming. I can't wait. Okay. So we've talked enough about business. Before we get done with this, I gotta, this is the turn you upside down part and see when you're not working, what is fun, mom?
Fun mom.
I say the mom comment because I know what keeps you tied down when you do get home, but there's,
I do. It's funny, like Joe and I giggle, like, and every parent experiences this, is like, you go to work, you're like, ah, and then at work, you're like, I miss my kids. So then, like, when they're gone, we miss them, and then when they're home, we're like, oh, it's like this. Ugh. I think some days are better than others, right? But I'm a big gardener. That's what I love to do.
cool.
And I'm like my kid, Teddy, who's 4, loves to do it too. At bed at night, he goes, "Mama, I can't wait to start our garden." I'm like, doing something right.
Oh, that's cool.
That's my like big. That's what makes me happy a lot. Is I just want to be digging in the dirt. If I could retire
Yeah.
early, that's what I would do.
Gosh,
Love
I
it.
can appreciate that. It just shakes the world off. The
Oh,
focus has become simple, and the results are very rewarding.
oh,
You know,
so rewarding. When we picked that pumpkin, we grew 2 pumpkins last year. When he picked that pumpkin off and was carried up to the steps, I was like, "Man, we're nailing it. Today's a good day."
oh, it's so cool.
Yeah. So he's got all. Yeah, I love gardening is great, and being with the kids in the garden, I love too. I love letting them get dirty and muddy, and this is awesome. It's
Yeah,
yeah,
good.
which is very different from work. Also,
Right, right. But
got
we
to be
got to
different.
decompress. Yeah, we've earned that. You've earned that.
Yeah.
Well, I guess if we were to pick back up, how you and I met. I haven't been a lifer for NIBA like you have been, which is so cool to see it on your level, to be a kid running around and stuff. And I did take my kids one year when they were young, to kind of absorb what it's like to that fancy dinner or whatever it might
Yeah.
be, or
Oh,
time
yeah,
at
yeah, yeah.
school.
It's so
I
fun.
can only
Yeah.
imagine being fed that on a routine basis, but to smash cut to where I did get to come, and I got to run into some, everything gets salted down. We're all just trying, like you and I are talking about in this very conversation about,
Yeah.
this is what you do, this is what I do, and how we can relate on so many levels. We get to go
Yeah.
have so many of those conversations with other people, and then look to find them again and again. And I love you and your family, Kathryn. I cherish running into you guys.
Oh,
I have
great.
a bromance with your husband, and I'm
I
sure
know.
I'm sure he's upset I'm not talking to him, but
He literally came in. He was like, "Hi, Casey." I was like, "Go away."
That's so cool. But I've met your brothers, and I've met their spouses. I've met your Gretchen and Randy are such a kick to hang out with too. And now that you're growing babies that are going to grow up into babies
little knobby babies.
Oh yeah. No, it's so cool. So I'm glad that I got to grab you for this, because 1 week is just never enough hanging out with you guys. So
Oh, I know. I say it to Joe. I'm like, we need to do a trip out west and see. I would love to go out. I haven't spent a lot of time at rubber. I've been to like 3 mills or manufacturing places, if you want to call them, or distribution. That's about it for cores. So I've always wanted to explore that a little bit more and see more of, what you guys do. I know what you do, but I want to see it. I want to see our cores in action. Like, I love that.
I get that. I mean, on a manufacturing level, and the unfortunate is you'd see a lot more on a manufacturing level using your cores than you would on a distributor level, but it would be
I still,
You don't know how tight and tiny your cores can get used for use. They get
I love it. Yeah.
yeah,
I like going to places and being like, oh, that's an interesting way of using that.
yeah. Didn't think about that.
Think about that.
Well,
We have a
and
customer
likewise.
there. Yeah,
Go ahead.
I
Go
know.
ahead.
We have a think about our cores. We have a customer that orders like small pieces, but then he puts them on a big roll and he just puts them in sections because you don't want to pay for the whole core. And we're like, we cannot certify that that won't break.
No. Good luck guiding the next shaft into that. That's ridiculous.
We give the best guidance we can, and people are going to use the stuff as they want to use it. And you just kind of
Oh
yeah,
my.
you know,
Yeah,
that's
I
the
can't
that's
stand that either.
yeah. I mean, people are save money. I get it. Maybe not time, but money
No.
for the product.
Well, likewise, we
So
talk about trekking to New Hampshire. I'd love to see the mill and
you're
just see how
more
humble your
than welcome.
team is and your neck
Very
of the woods.
small.
Never ventured into that quarter ever, that corner of the United States. So that it fascinates me. It does.
You should, yeah, especially come in fall. It's beautiful
Yeah.
here. Best time of the year. Yeah, beautiful and it's yeah. I love New England. I'm such a New England kid. I lived in Colorado. I lived everywhere, but I don't know. The seasons are. That's probably another draw why I ended up back at the mill is that like I loved New Hampshire and the feeling and the wide open spaces that we are privileged to have here. So part and parcel of that too.
Yeah. Well, it all ties together. You're stuck. No, I mean in a very good way, though. In a very
Yeah,
good way.
very good.
I wouldn't know. I mean, I'm Oregon born and raised, Portland. It's
Yeah,
sad to see some of the evolved to Portland around here, but certainly the outskirts live to what I'm used to. So
yeah,
it's still my draw to stay here because I always say, gosh, it's not too far to the ocean or not too far to go jump in the river or go get
right.
lost in the
Yeah,
woods. We've got a lot of that here. So.
yeah. Which is what I I thirst for. Like my kid, my 4-year-old child, the other day walked down the road, and we live on a dead end. We're the last house on a road, and there's 4 other houses on this like mile-long road, dirt road. Could not find him. He had taken the 2 dogs and walked down the road and was like talking to the neighbor who we know, and did not tell me. Did not. And he's like, "Well, I brought treats down to the puppy down here." Everything in his head was completely logical. It all made sense. Nothing that he did was absolutely wrong. And I look around and I'm talking to the neighbor. I'm like, well, that's why we live here.
Oh
Like
my,
to have that freedom. And I wasn't like mad, but I was definitely like, we had some rule talking after that. But this is why I live where I live, is so the kids can have that freedom. Like I think that's one of the things missing in raising children is that their leashes have gotten so short. Don't do this, don't do that, don't go here, ask permission, be careful this, be careful that. Like sometimes the kids just gotta go. They gotta go and they gotta
yeah.
figure it out like we do in the business. We just showed up, we're like, okay, what are we gonna do tomorrow at our little companies? Like my parents gave me a very long tether growing up, and I feel like that's given me the ability to do what I do is the trust, and he trusts me. Even though the tether's really long now, he still trusts me to
Yeah.
make sure, I don't know.
Mm.
So that's New
Well,
Hampshire.
I'm
Good neighbors, bad kid.
sold. Yeah. We're not talking about Andrew, are we? No. No, that's awesome.
Yeah, so
I can appreciate that.
yeah, it's a good place.
Okay, well, we're near the end, and I did. Kimberly, my wife, gave me a good suggestion of trying to, in and amongst the questions, ask something completely random. At least have something fun with it. So I looked it up, and I'll probably get better recommendations as I come along. But I thought this one might be apropos for you because you're a fun person. If you had to name an autobiography about yourself with a funny title, what would that be?
You can sleep when you're dead.
That's morbid, but I love it. Oh, I love it.
It's an ongoing joke in my family because I'm always like, "Let's go," and like, you can sleep when you're dead. Screw it. Let's do it. Carpe diem.
Oh, I love it. I love
Life
it. That's
before.
perfect.
Yeah.
Good. Katie, thank
Good.
you.
Thank you. This was really fun. I miss you. I
I,
wish we could see you guys more often. We enjoy your
same.
company a
Well,
lot.
oh man. Well, I
Gonna make it
like it
happen.
that.
Yeah.
No, keep going. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say I need to just hop on a plane. Business expense, Portland.
I'll bridge some of the gaps. I'll pay for dinner. Let's get out. It'd be a
Okay,
kick in the
sounds good.
pants. You got
Leave my
yeah.
kids, just Joe and I. Oh, sounds great.
I'll leave my kids. We'll take a big break. Yeah. Well.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
We're at the
Yeah.
exact same opposite age groups too.
I know, right? Yeah. That's why you need to bring your kids and I. But then I'll make my kids go to work. You know.
That's right. I'll just be like, here. They'll be like,
We're
taking
old
care of
enough
these
to be.
kids. You're like,
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
be
You don't
fine.
know what you're getting into, older kids coming to NIBA this year.
Guess what? You're a babysitter.
Oh, too funny.
Oh yeah. So this
Well,
is
thank
great.
you
Thank
again.
you.
This was
Yeah,
great.
this was
Thank
so
you.
fun.
I knew it would be. I knew it would be. And
I'm
I
excited to
appreciate it.
hear who else you interview too. I'm like,
I mean,
I'm because it's such a small community. We know everyone. Like, like it's gonna be cool.
well, and I guess to speak to that, because you and I keep speaking about NIBA like everybody knows, and people within our own businesses are like, what are you going off and doing once a year? NIBA is a wonderful thing to learn again what other people do in the same industry that we do. It's a little different over here, and why are you doing it that way over here? And just find out that there are people that just landed in the belt industry and can't get that rubber out from under their nails. They're stuck like you and I are.
Oh, no, we were duped.
They weren't as duped. We're the
right?
Some of them were pitched into it, but
no, we're suckers.
Yeah, we're the suckers. But it's just terribly rewarding. So I would be remiss coming up with an idea like this and not following through. And you're right. I'm excited about other people to sit down and talk.
Yeah, you're so cool.
Yeah. I think it's cool to share with others.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I think it's like I said when we talked last week, like it's such a small community. Like there's not a lot of us. And everyone knows everyone in some sort of facility, right? Everyone knows everyone. And so that makes it small. I remember, do you remember the NIBA where they, it was in Florida and they brought that other group in?
Oh, the PTEA?
Yes.
Is that the acronym? The bearing.
The bearing and power transmission?
Yeah. Yes.
I remember how I could, at the big hall, and we're all like having lunch, all the NIBA people we were all together in one corner because the PTA was so much larger than us. And I remember the next year where everyone was like, that was a terrible idea because like all the NIBA people, because we're so small that we couldn't actually see other NIBA people because we were seeing I remember that it was like, it was a good experiment, but I remember I heard a lot of backlog people talking about how that was not, and I think it goes back to the fact that we all just want to see each other in a really small community and we don't want to be bugged by anyone else.
Yeah, it was getting convoluted, and I remember too, because it was interesting trying to bring their way of how they had their meeting with ours, and it's like, well, that's not the way we do it, and we were hearing that back and forth between the two,
So we had to sit down in meetings, and we're like, we don't do that. We don't actually have meetings about business.
We can figure stuff out at the pool too.
Yeah, we'll be at the pool day drinking, and then we'll talk about business. They were much more serious than us. Much more serious.
Well, I'm going to share one for us. I cherish that NIBA so much for us that we ended it on the note of karaokeing at the karaoke booth. It was just us and your family, and I think we brought some other friends of ours in there and stuff.
It was awesome.
One heck of a way to end it, and
it's a core memory for me.
It is, because I'll never forget. We ended that night, sober or not, in that room, but all in a big circle, and we sang a cappella "Country Roads" to each other to leave the room. I was in hog heaven. I loved it. I thought
that was a fun night. It was a really fun night. There's just some core memory. I mean, NIBA, the National Industrial Belting Association, for me, like, so many core memories, growing up and spending time with this once a year where we see each other. I have so many that are burned in my soul forever, like, and all good stuff, all fun
Yeah.
stuff, and that's why I love the community. It's so small, and that's why I think these interviews are gonna be, and especially for everyone in our community, it's gonna be good. I think it's gonna be really good.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you and I both watching this will get to know more people, because there's
Yeah.
certain tables you don't sit down. I've always seen that face. Who are you?
Yeah, like, oh,
So
yeah, so many the faces are more, then I thank God people wear name badges because I don't remember anyone's
yeah.
name. So, like,
And you're trying not to let your eyes give away.
yeah,
Hi
I'm always
there.
like, "Oh, hey, Bob, it's good to see
Yeah.
you."
They do it to us. It's fine.
Yeah. I hope so because 'cause I'm terrible. Not on my priority list.
Oh,
I
Katie, thank
remember your
you.
name, though.
Oh, you do? Okay. Thank
Yeah, yeah.
There aren't a lot of Caseys in the industry, so I'm getting away with one.
True, true.
Well, thank you, my dear. This was
Yes,
a kick.
thank you. It's been fun.
Heck yeah. All right. Well, this is how I got to figure out how to get used to these exits. So, with that, I'd like to give a shout out to New Wave Media and George Padilla, who's a gentleman helping run things behind the scenes here. Can't thank him enough. And with that, thank you. And I'll see you again soon.